The entrepreneur started with nothing. Have you ever considered that somebody just started with nothing and created a global business empire? The story of Jerry, the commoner who transformed the odds against him into opportunity, reminds us that success with abundant effort and a clear vision is achievable. The struggle. Jerry hailed from a small village with limited opportunities. He came from a low-income family, often going to bed hungry. Jerry dreamt of big things, even in the wake of adversities. He was sick of being poor and wanted to create something that would make his family proud. Jerry, after completing school, got a job in the city. He found it hard to get a job because he needed contacts or previous experience. He survived by doing petty jobs, but he ended up homeless, living on the streets for months. He used to wonder, am I ever going to get a shot? The turning point. Jerry observed a vendor selling food items, struggling to manage his stall. Because he was forced to do business slower, the vendor stated that his company was working as he needed to serve customers promptly. Jerry steps up to help, suggesting minor tweaks for efficiency. Changes did the trick, and soon the vendor could sell more, much to Jerry's surprise. It sparked an idea in Jerry. What if I can start my own food business? Jerry bought a secondhand cart and began selling snacks on a bustling street corner with what little money he had saved. He toiled away, rising early to cook food and staying late with customers. The success story. Jerry was a great cook with an inviting attitude and soon had his customers. Eventually, his menu grew and he began to hire some workers. He set up a small eatery after living frugally and saving his earnings for a year. But Jerry didn't stop there. In school, he learned compounding effect and diversifying capital. He restructured his business, adding healthy choices and going to an online menu. Fast forward to today. Jerry owns a burgeoning restaurant chain located nationwide. He also employs hundreds of people like him from disadvantaged backgrounds. Jerry has pushed his story to magazines, where he now gets invited to talk about entrepreneurship. The takeaway. The story of Jerry reminds us that success is not where you start, but where you go. You are a warrior capable of fighting and defeating the mightiest opponent.
A homeless boy who became a scientist. Have you ever been up against something so huge it seemed impossible? Introducing David, a boy living on the street with dreams of becoming a scientist. This is the incredible story of how he transformed obstacles to success. The struggle. This was no ordinary childhood for David. At the age of 10, both his parents died in a horrific accident, leaving him to survive alone. And with no family who would take him in, he lived on the streets. Every day was a struggle to ensure enough food, somewhere to sleep, and some guarantee of safety. Besides the situation, David had something worth it: his love for science. He poured through hours of discarded books he found in garbage bins or library, dreaming of making discoveries one day. Mocking him, "You are but a street boy. What can you ever achieve?" David, however, was unbroken by their words. The turning point. While waiting, David was blocked by the rain at a community center on one rainy night. He heard a special teacher speak about evening classes for poor children at no cost there. And David, despite his nerves, opted for the class. Other people saw his love of learning. Mr. Richards, the teacher, was so impressed by David's thirst for knowledge that he offered to mentor him. Under the guidance of Mr. Richards, David started working on the basics again. He slowly began to raise the bar regarding math and science. The success story. David was determined and ultimately won a scholarship to a top school. His determination paid off and he was eventually accepted into a prestigious school. Many years later, he was a prominent scientist known for his groundbreaking work in renewable energy technologies. Had David never put in that effort, his work would change his life and the world. He created low-cost solar panels and brought electricity to poor villages so no child would ever have to study in the dark like he did. The takeaway. The story of David teaches us that it is not your situation, but your resolve that determines your destiny. What would you be capable of if a homeless boy became a scientist?
The teacher who transformed the village. Have you ever asked yourself how one person can make a difference for an entire community? This is a story about a gentleman, Mr. Anand, who turned the wheel of fate for his native village and established a well-organized distribution system that serves the unique skills of this less privileged person, be it poor villagers or students. The struggle. Anand was born in a village where education was not accessible to most people. It was considered a luxury. Many families had difficulty getting by, and children were forced to work in fields rather than go to school. But Anand's parents were firm believers in education, and Panther strikingly sent him to a town nearby for school. Anand was an adult when India opened up. became a teacher, and moved to the city seeking the good life. But then there was a small voice in his heart. But he would remember where he came from, his village, the kids who were being deprived of opportunities by the lot they were born to. Years passed, and one day, Anand returned home to make a change. The turning point. Anand was horrified to find the village school in ruins a couple of months after he returned. The roof was leaking, no desk to sit on, and most children were not going to school. The villagers said to him, "Why bother with this? Nobody around here gives a shit about education." But Anand refused to give up. He began his teachings with a few students seated under a tree. He knocked door to door, persuading parents to ask their children to study. He told them, education is the bridge to a better tomorrow. He also contacted NGOs and government agencies for assistance. Gradually, some aid began to arrive. The success story. Anand's efforts paid off. The school received a new building, adequate equipment, and a library. Every year, the students multiplied. He brought novel methods of teaching and made his learning fun and interactive. However, that school was just the beginning of his vision. He worked with adults to teach them the basics of reading and writing and showed farmers how to take up modern farming practices that helped them earn more. With time, the village that was close to being abandoned turned into a role model of development and proved to be home to many doctors, engineers, and teachers who were students in Anand's place. News regarding Anand reached across boundaries and encouraged other teachers to take similar actions. The takeaway! Mr. Anand's demonstration of one person dedicated can uplift the whole community. He is a man of life lesson, one who lives by serving, not seeking to sell. The single mother who became a CEO. We all know what determination, grit, and hard work can do. Meet Maria, a single mom who went from street food to CEO of a $2 million company. Her journey proves that the distance between where you are and where you want to be is only ever in your mind. The struggle. Life dealt Maria a blow when her husband upped and left her with two kids who were still really young. She had no job, savings, or family to support her. Each day was a struggle to ensure not only that there was food on the table, but also that there was a roof above their heads. By day, she was a cleaner. At night, a waitress, just scraping by. Her children regularly said, "Why can't we have what the kids do?" Mallory listened with tears brimming in her eyes as Maria told them, "I promise it will be better one day. I will make sure of it." Yet deep down, she was afraid. Was it possible she could change their lives? The turning point. That was until one night, after hanging up her uniform from another grueling day at the diner, Maria discovered a tattered notebook with ideas for business that had never transpired. One was an idea they came up with for an online delivery service targeted towards working mothers such as herself. Maria had no idea how even to suggest something so impossible. Her nights were consumed with research, studying business and technology. Palmer had no budget to spare, so she learned how to do everything online, from coding a website to marketing techniques. Maria has applied for numerous small business grants only to be rejected, but she didn't give up. Finally, a local community fund gambled on her and provided her with the right amount to get started delivering her service. The success story. Maria modestly began the online delivery service, slowly building it up with her vision. Mary took a customer-centered approach, providing flexible options and excellent service. It got around, and within a year, the business exploded. In the third year of operation, Maria's business served thousands and generated millions in revenue. She inspired other single mothers and proved there is always time to chase your dreams. The takeaway. Maria's journey wakes us up to the fact that failure is not final. It is another chance to rise from. A woman of remarkable resilience and grit. She changed a persisting, painful existence into an unbeatable narrative. Farmer and his resilient dream. But do you know what it takes? Never to lose hope in your dreams, even when everyone else does. Incredible farmer's story that patience can beat all things. So don't go anywhere. This story will redefine how you look at challenges in life. I'm Sirago. Once upon a time, a poor farmer named Peter lived in a small village. Life was challenging. Peter relied on his farm alone for his income, but every year, droughts ruined all of his farmland. His neighbors jeered, "Why not quit then?" They told me, "Oh wow, farming will never work here." However, Peter had a vision to make his wasteland a green paradise. He thought the soil needed time and hard work to bloom, even the hardest. Nevertheless, they dried up in the sun's heat whenever he sowed seeds. His family pleaded with him to quit. They pled with him to look for another job. The turning point. While digging his fields one day, Peter stumbled across an old rusted pipe deep in the ground. Could it be part of some ancient water system, he wondered? And that inspired Peter to learn about collecting rainwater and how to save it. With that pipe and any scrap he could scrounge up, he created the kind of irrigation system you would need. It was challenging. He kept working around the clock and sometimes starved himself. He was made fun of by all his neighbors as a fool. However, Peter did not notice these people and continued following his dream. The success story. The rain came after months of slogging away. This time, the water didn't run off. It lingered to feed the earth. The seeds that Peter had planted began to grow. In a year, his farm turned into an evergreen paradise of crops. Images from the day left people skeptical. Neighbors who previously mocked him were now coming to ask for counsel. Peter didn't just stop there. It is said that he assisted villagers in constructing their irrigation system. Their fortunes rose with his, and before long, the parched village grew into a farming boom town. The takeaway, what's the lesson here? Never lose faith in your dreams, no matter how impossible they seem. The story of Peter teaches us that the difficulty of proving vitality can be creativity.